Well, good morning, Wareham, and it is Friday, December 6th. We have a great show here for you. The news headlines, the weather report, and today in history. This morning, my 6-month report regarding school choice will be unveiled this morning. My interviews with the school department and the state over the Massachusetts school choice law. Also, since it is Friday, we welcome our weekly news correspondent, Nadia Karitnakova, to digest the week's news and events. But first, I would like to take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show. So stay tuned because the news headlines and the weather report are next. State Representative Susan Williams Gifford has filed bills that would allow towns to count mobile and manufactured homes as affordable housing towards the 10% quota required to allow local officials to stop 40B developments and create a committee to study the impact of those proposed changes. Chapter 40B is a Massachusetts law that allows developers to bypass some local regulations if less than 10% of the housing in the towns is considered affordable. In addition, Gifford also filed a bill which would establish a commission to study the definition of affordable housing and to look in particular at mobile homes, group homes, manufactured homes, in-law apartments, and first-time home buyers using state and federal assistance programs. Also, one hunter shot another near Charlotte Furnace Road on Wednesday, according to Massachusetts Environment Police. Both were wearing orange. The hunter who was shot is being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The incident is under investigation by the Environmental Police. The Wareham Village Association's annual Christmas parade will kick off at Wareham High School at 3 p.m. on Saturday, December 7th, before making its way down Main Street to Bessie Park. The parade will include floats, fire trucks, and candy. And that is all for this morning in news headlines. And right now, we're going to take a look at our weather forecast. Well, enjoy the sun today because it's going to be sunny, but then turning overcast later. So enjoy it while you got it. We are looking at 40 degrees for high and 24 degrees for low. On Saturday, same great news, 34 for high, 18 for low with some sunshine. Things are going to get a little bit of a mixture on Sunday when it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud. We're looking at 37 for a high and 36 for a low. No snow in that forecast. So just breathe. Anyhow, and that is this morning news headlines and weather forecast. We're going to take a very brief break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to our news correspondent, Nadia Karitnakova. Welcome back. So we have Nadia Karitnakova in the studio to digest the week's news and events. Nadia, welcome. How you doing?
Great, thanks, Quinn.
All right. Did I just catch you looking at your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Anyhow, so Nadia, you're here to talk about upcoming events. We have the Christmas parade. You'd like to talk about the hunter who got shot.
Yeah.
And also Wareham Gateman that is threatening lawsuit over Woo Sox logo. Actually, I'm having that gentleman come here on Wednesday next week.
Great.
So if you'd like
Wait,
to...
who exactly, Glenn?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. And how our football team officially sucks.
Okay, please don't read my emails out loud, but yes. I should keep a note to myself to never send anything personal to you in these emails.
I thought you're supposed to be non-biased. Anyhow, in that list of events, where would you like to begin?
I think we should start with like the most outdated stuff.
Okay.
Let's start with our football team.
Okay. It officially sucks.
Yes.
When did you realize that our football team officially sucks?
When they lost 43-0 to Bourne during the Thanksgiving, their traditional Thanksgiving football game.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting is that they won their first game with Bourne this season.
Mm-hmm.
And even coach Frank Cass admitted that they were kind of lax during their practices further in the season, while Bourne got better. So that's why Wareham kind of stayed in the same place. But
why were they relaxed? Winning means, okay, we have more to do, not we should relax in practicing. So is that what exactly he said?
No, that's not what he said. It's just he said that we stayed on the same level, but Bourne improved.
And why did we stay in the same level? How does that happen when you practice but you stay in the same level?
I think there's just like maybe Bourne loss motivated them to improve, while maybe Wareham's victory kind of they relaxed after this. Maybe this might be the cause. But coach also addressed the weather.
We are all from New England.
Yes, weather sabotaged the game, so to say.
Sabotage the game for everybody.
Yes, for everybody. Yes, I guess more for Wareham than for Bourne. I found this excuse very weird, to be honest.
So, during the game, you're talking about 44-0?
43-0.
43-0.
Yes.
Did Wareham look at least they're trying? Did it look like a fair game?
Okay, the coach guess will hate me after this, but let me say that it was very hard for me to take pictures because our team almost did not hold the ball at all. I had great pictures of Bourne players holding and running with the ball, but no.
No. So you had to give them the ball towards the end of the of the game
Yeah.
and say, just hold the pause, and I'm just gonna take a picture. You look like you're running. Look like you got it. Okay.
I had a great picture of our players just like looking at the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
But like that's all.
Now, did the coach, did the students offer any substantial reasoning to why this went so wrong after they defeated them? I mean, I'm sure that came with, they felt good, but at the same time, they were able to evaluate their own weaknesses and how they play and get the confidence to at least have a fair game next time.
Yeah, well, Kes addressed that the main issues in our team is defense is our weakest part. And also we're still, according to him, struggling from losing 6 great seniors last season, which kind of led the team.
Okay, so now let's move on to the hunter who was mistakenly shot.
Yeah, you already said it all. There is not much news. We tried to find more news yesterday. The only news that we found out is that the hunter was released from the hospital. He's fine. So I guess the message here is try to be careful.
Whom were they hunting?
Deer. I think it's a deer
they're
hunting
hunting
season.
deer,
Yes.
okay.
So please be careful when in the forest hunting with the guns. That's the message you should take away from the story.
Do we know where he was shot?
Yes, Charles. Can I have it in my notes?
Yeah, and did they know each other or they just...
Yes, they were.
Okay.
It happened on accident.
Okay.
That's the most hilarious part, I think. Charlotte Furnace Road on Wednesday. No interest, it's just the message takeaway. Please be careful.
Well, I won't read your little side note under that.
Yes, please.
Okay. So Wareham Gateman is threatening lawsuit over Woo Sox logo.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. There hasn't been a lawsuit yet.
Mm-hmm.
The our sorry, what's our team name? I'm sorry. Gateway
Gateman.
Vice President Glenn Hennington, who is coming here next Wednesday on your show, he's trying to reach out to Woo Sox, which means Worcester Sox team, in but they have not replied yet. They are not flying the lawsuit yet, but maybe it will happen in the future if the Woo Sox will not be collaborative.
Oh.
But I must say that it is trademarked, the V. The Gateman V has a trademark.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, as I said, we're going to have the gentleman come here on Wednesday.
Yeah, he'll tell you all about this.
Yeah, I'm very curious to learn about the process it takes when you're starting a team, how you select your logo, the homework you have to do. I mean, he sent me various of pictures, and they all look the same. So many logos.
Except for the tip on the top. The tip of the W looks different. Everything else looks the same.
Everything, but who's gonna? Do we look at the little nuances when we look at logos, or we see the bigger picture rather than the little nuances? We don't want to see the bigger picture, and the bigger picture, the logos all look the same.
They do all look the same. I think this must be like a particular meticulous participation. You have to talk with a lawyer before starting the whole team. It's such a I didn't realize how much of a headache it must be to just design the logo. Honestly.
Well, what is at risk here is them losing their own, not only their own logo, but then them losing their uniqueness. So if they lose or they win, people may not be necessarily celebrating them, but celebrating somebody else.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what is coming up this weekend?
Okay, there's so much stuff I had to print out, and yeah, I'm like super duper prepared. We have so many fairs, 5 fairs tomorrow. Holiday fair from 9 a.m. at the library, 9 to 1 p.m. at the Wareham Free Library. Then I think it's super fun. Garden Club fair from 9 to 1 at St. Patrick's Hall on 82nd High Street. Then we have a Wesley United Methodist Church Christmas fair and luncheon from 9 to 3 at 462 Main Street. We have Crafts for Cause at the Y from 9 to 2 at the Gleason Family YMCA. And we have Church of the Good Shepherd Christmas Fair from 10 to 2 p.m. at 74 High Street. God, I'm out of breath, but next thing, I'm not done. Other ones. Staff Cruiser Toy Drive, Staff Bus, Edward Buster Costa Children's Christmas Party, Chris Fight to Breathe fundraiser, and most importantly, well, not most importantly, but the biggest one, Christmas Parade at 3.
Are you going to be in the parade?
I'm going to be at the parade. I'm going to be at the Staff Bus. I'm going to be at the crafts.
What is Staff Bus?
Okay, Staff Bus is when you bring new toys, any toys, and you bring into the bus, school bus, that is going to be parked near Wareham Fire Department. And then they're going to give all these toys to the Turning Point's Holiday Outreach Program, which is dedicated to giving Christmas to children.
Oh, very nice. Okay, well, thank you so much, Nadia, for your breakdown. It was really lovely to have you this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Quinn.
So that was our weekly news correspondent, Nadia Karitna-Kova, in the studio today. Just the week's news and events. Right now, we are going to go straight to our history program because we have a great featured program for the coffee segment, and we need to rush right to it. So let's take a look at our history. Okay, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And now let's take a look at our history. On this day in monument history, the Washington Monument was completed in 1884 made in honor of America's first president, and consequently, a private organization called the George Washington National Monument Society was made in 1882 to design plans for the structure. Its construction started in 1848, but was stopped due to the lack of funds and the Civil War. It took until 1870 for the construction to resume. Today, the monument stands over 550 feet tall and is visited by hundreds of thousands of people each year. Also, today in freedom history, the 13th Amendment was ratified in 1865. Following the end of Civil War, this amendment finally made slavery unconstitutional, proclaiming that, unconstitutional. And Lincoln, I'm sorry, I missed my notes. The Emancipation Proclamation that Lincoln had issued a few years prior was not an official legal change to anything, but rather pushed the North focus of the war into freeing the slaves. Once the nation was reunified after the Civil War, the 13th Amendment was quickly put to paper and make ending of slavery official. Also today, this day in freedom history, the Irish Free State was declared in 1921. Most of Ireland declared its independence from Britain, becoming what is now the Republic of Ireland. The island was has seen conflict in the decades after this. However, with Northern Ireland still being a part of the United Kingdom, fights between the Protestants and Catholics during the mid-20th century resulted in the death of thousands. Also, for today's birthday, shout out goes to Genius Moorhead. This actress, sorry, actually it's Agnes Moorehead. This actress was born in 1900 in Clinton, Massachusetts, and is known for her roles in Citizens Kane and the television show Bewitched. And that's all for this morning history segment. To learn more cool historical facts, you can go online under history.com. So right now, I would like to introduce my report that took about 6 months to make. This is a look at school choice law, Massachusetts school choice law, an interview with the State Department and our own school department. Take a look. If a monopoly is bad for business, so is for the education system. Thus comes the Massachusetts Interdistrict School Choice Law of 1991, which provided an open enrollment policy for K through 12 public schools in the Commonwealth. The law incorporates the notion that students' ability to choose will promote better schools and education programs.
We know that not every school is the same, and not every child is the same. So to the degree we can match up children with a learning environment where they will flourish and that speaks to their needs, we think students will do better. And that's the sort of the theory behind all of these different choice programs.
Okay. The law was not the first stab at choice, because families with means have always had access to better education through private sector or by moving to better school districts.
Well, I believe that the family, that parents are the primary educator for their child or their children. And we have, to a large extent, removed a lot of that ability to direct and control by forcing way too many families to assign schools based on where they live. Now, if you have resources, if you're powerful or connected, you figure out a way to find a good school for your child. But if you don't, you're the ones that get left behind and miss out. And so we believe that education freedom for everyone is a critical piece of our future.
The uniqueness, however, of this law is the equal access to preferred public schools regardless of your means or residence. And while the law allows the district to vote whether to receive students or not, it is against the law to deny a student from leaving their home district. Sending districts or students' home district is responsible of up to 75% or $5,000 of per pupil expenditure to the receiving district.
For the districts that take students in under the school choice program, it's basically bringing in a little extra money to fill some seats that would otherwise be empty in the classroom. So it helps them maintain their programs and brings in a little more revenue for them. That's the incentive.
And those who are sending more than they're taking in, a lesson to be learned?
I would certainly, if I was in that district, be asking the question, why are they going out? What are they trying to get in other districts that we are not offering? And perhaps we should be offering it here. And to the degree that those conversations happen and local school officials ask about what parents are looking for, I think that's a good thing, and that will help make our educational system better.
The argument over choice is an old one, emotive and logical at the same time. Research shows that through competition, choice, and access to better education, the inter-district school choice law has helped to improve education in the Commonwealth. The opposite argument is just as convincing, as opponents of the law will point out to the insufficient state funding formula, the lack of accessibility to choice, and the reality versus perception as some of the major reasons to why the law is not only harmful but unfair to public education as we know it. So let's take a look at how schools are funded.
So the bulk of our school funding comes from what you call the Chapter 70 program. We figure out for each school district how much money the district should have at a minimum, and that's based on the number of students and their demographics. And then we figure out how much the town can afford from its property taxes and other revenues, and then the state contributes whatever the difference is in the form of state aid, Chapter 78.
What poor school districts are fighting for is an equitable school funding formula, one that will give them a fair chance to compete against affluent school districts.
I think there's a general consensus that we need to raise that minimum, the so-called foundation budget, to a higher amount to reflect all of the needs and demands of schooling in the 21st century. So that's something that the legislature is actively working on right this second.
School districts are encouraged to spend more than what is required for their schools. However, it is not possible when you lack additional funds to spend. When the school committee presents their desired budget and when you don't get the full amount of money, what does it mean for the school department?
That means things get cut, whether it's capital cost, capital improvements gets cut, supplies, materials. We would like to have, support staff to work with every classroom in the elementary. That's just not fiscally possible.
The history of school funding in Wareham has always revealed a dire picture. Are our schools adequately funded?
No. Is the town adequately funded? No.
So I am the Director of Student Services, so that kind of covers a very wide gamut of things in the district. I cover nursing and guidance, special education, and a lot of what we do in this office is around special education and Medicaid, Department of Children and Families, homeless students and families, and supporting all of those and all the legislation initiatives and pieces that go along with that, including transportation, and all of the meetings, like all of the best interest determination meetings, and all of the pieces that go along with educating the students that fall into those categories. So it's a lot of different pieces.
Wareham School District has one of the largest group of STAR program students, which is a short-term assessment and rapid rehabilitation program. The district is also responsible for one of the largest foster and shelter care replacements in the state. But none of these facts put us on top of the list for extra state funding. So how flexible is your budget? Can you say, no, I cannot do this?
No, that is not allowed. We cannot say no. And certainly we cannot use budget or money as a reason for not being able to do it. It is, expected that if, the child's best interest is determined to be that they remain in our community and we have to bus them from, and we have children as far away as Quincy and Weymouth and Brockton that we are transporting back to Wareham every day, that we are expected to pay for that, and we cannot use funding as an excuse for not doing that. That is the law and it has to be done. So we have to figure out where that money comes from.
What does figuring out where the money comes from means?
It means we need to, sometimes take from places where we might be able to offer a professional development or some money that we may have wanted to utilize for something else, that we might have to move that money over to transportation. So it's always kind of like a balancing act.
Right now, because of Proposition 2.5, it restricts how much we can raise our taxes and when. This district, school district, and several others, the whole state actually, are working towards revising Chapter 70 formula, how schools are funded. How long that debate is going to take and what will be the outcome, Wareham may have to come back and revise how we fund our school department.
No.
No?
How we fund the school department is through town meeting. The amount of monies that may be available, that may change, but we still have to run as a complete town.
How does this department help such a school, help recognize those districts where they're doing all they can, but there's so much you can do for such a little budget?
Right. No, that's a great question, and there's no question that some of the enrollment in the school choice program is from parents in under-resourced districts taking advantage of a better funded district nearby. That's really, again, part of this whole debate that we talked about before of state funding for education and whether we're giving those, the real answer to that is not just limiting school choice, it's making sure all the districts have the resources they need to provide a good quality education. So that's the debate that's going on in the legislature. We've seen a number of proposals out there. The governors, the House and Senate both have proposals, and all of them involve a very significant increase in state funding for education over the next decade. So we're very much aware because, again, small numbers of students are choicing out. We care just as much about the 90% of the students who, for whatever reason, are staying in their home district, and we want to make sure they have a good education too. So we're very optimistic that the legislature will port out a bill very soon that will significantly increase the resources available to all those districts.
But there are also those who would contest. The money is not the root problem, but surely has made things difficult.
We are already successful for our children, and we don't have what we need. So in other words,
money is not the problem.
I would say it could be part of the problem, but it is never, to me, a reason why you're still not going to do everything in your power to make it great. Because we could have that argument forever, right? People always end up saying it's never enough. But I think if you're smart and you know your population really well, then what you do is you target, right? And you figure out where the root cause of that problem is, and you find a way, somehow, You might have to take a little from here or there to make it happen, and then you have to be patient.
I feel fortunate that we're able to do what we do, but we need more. Like, we always need more. And so there's things that we would love to incorporate and programs that I would love to have that we just don't have the funding to be able to, I think, beef up the things the way that I would like to see them be beefed up. Like, I would love to have more board certified behavior analysts. I would love to have more ABA support for our autism programs. I would love, for us to have some more opportunities to have social workers embedded in some of our programs, but right now that funding is just not available for us. And there's always trainings and things that you always want, programming and training and professional development for your staff and opportunities to get those things in that cost money and that you would love to have and that you see and have data to support that it works in other places, but we just can't access it because we don't have the funding to access it right now.
If we were to raise more taxes, from what we are generating from our tax revenue to what we are supposed to be based on our needs, what is the number?
We have been so preoccupied with dealing with emergencies that are short-term in nature in terms of solutions and the like, that no one has really sat down and said, we need X number of dollars. We need X number of dollars to upgrade the sewer system. We need X number of dollars to upgrade our ability for the municipal facilities. We need X number of dollars to be able to upgrade our school system to deliver a better education to the children there. We were talking about MCAS before we started taping here. They've been rated at a level 3 for 5+ years. How we address that, how we do that, we haven't had the ability to make those future projections because we can't support them. We don't have the wherewithal to do so. And so it's almost a waste of time to say, well, this is what we could do if we had this, when you're preoccupied with struggling to satisfy what the needs are with the limited resources that you're dealing with. The school system has the same problem the municipal side has. One is producing a different product. That's all, the only difference. The cost of that product is the same. Doesn't make any difference who's producing it. The costs are the same. Everybody is trying to do their best. And I want you to know that we have a fantastic staff, whether it be the school system or the municipal side, to accomplish what they are is extraordinary.
Would you say we have skipped a point, to your opinion? Because you're telling me that the state is working on revising Chapter 70 funding. Meanwhile, school choice is still active. Meanwhile, those districts who are looking to do all they can, and they're doing it, but they don't have that additional funding to keep those programs sustainable. Should we pause everything until we get the chapter revised?
I wouldn't argue that. Again, school choice is relatively small numbers of students, and there's clear evidence that those students are benefiting from their choices that they're making. So I don't know why we would punish them while we're looking to improve things for everybody else.
Opponents of school choice will also argue that when a public school loses a percentage of students to another district, the school cannot reduce cost by an equivalent percent. Proponents of this argument will tell you that when you lose some, you save some. At least that is how it looks in Wareham.
The teaching ratio is about 12-to-1 based on what the documentation I have from the last presentation the school department did for their budget. The average teaching, based on the charts I looked up in the Department of Education, is around $74,000 per teacher. Mm-hmm. So if you divide the number of children who are in Upper Cape school choice and by what we're going to pay for the teachers, because you would need that number of additional teachers to teach that students, comes to around 1.4 or 1.5 million. You need support staff, benefits for the teachers, buses, space. So you're going to eat up that 1.5 just with your support staff and your equipment and the Chromebooks you got to purchase, benefits for the teachers, etc. So you don't actually have a large amount of monies left over to say, oh, we need it for the school system. No, by the time you're through paying all your overhead, you're back at square one. You're break even.
So we are we're neither losing nor making money
Correct.
by losing our students.
Indeed. If you brought them all into the school system, you'd have to pay almost the same amount of money to house them, teach them, staff, to support staff or teachers and all. So school choice, even though they've gone elsewhere, I don't think the school system itself, the Wareham school system itself, would benefit greatly from having them here.
Apart from the millions of dollars that public schools lose via the inter-district school choice, the state assures us that the program is not the threat we should be worrying about. Rather, we should be concerned with the rising popularity of the charter schools. What does that say, the popularity of charter schools to the declining of the public education as we know it? What does that say?
Well, again, I think it goes back to the fact that every parent wants the best education for their child, and each child has specific needs. And if you can find a school that's outside of your district that you feel meets your child's needs better, you're going to want to send them to that school.
Okay, so our public schools nowadays, majority of them are not meeting those needs?
Clearly, for the parents who are sending their students to charter schools or other district schools outside their home district, those parents clearly feel that those choices are better meeting their students' needs than their home district.
What are some of those needs you feel that the schools are lacking?
Again, I think each parent will have their own answer to that question. But certainly some of the things we hear about, again, are differences in school environments, large schools versus small schools. Some students do better in a small environment with small classes. Others may want the extra course offerings that a larger school might provide, extracurricular activities, sports programs. There's lots of reasons why a parent would choose one school over another.
I can't shake the idea of that. It's all about money, and if we have enough funding that any particular district can really turn things around and sustain that student, unless that kid needs a specific academic program that that district does not provide. Rather than that, I don't see why else, apart from lack of funding, that will prevent a school from improving and sustaining their student population.
Well, one of the things, of course, we constantly remind folks is that funding is necessary, but we have lots of school districts that spend similar amounts of money that have very different levels of performance.
How many people you believe in the system are like you, that they're there for the kids and it doesn't matter what they're making? And it doesn't matter the stress. Does not matter the many hats they're asked to wear.
I don't know the answer to that question. I would like to say that everyone has part of that in them, right? That's here serving kids.
But apart from whether a district is set to gain or lose money via choice, it is imperative to ask, why are our kids leaving? When I looked under our website, under the fiscal year 2020 budget public hearing, I saw the number 279 students. That was of January 1st this year. Those are the students that are outsourcing school. How do you explain 279 students?
Well, in that number is also Upper Cape, Bristol Aggie. There's a number of the students there. And then other students have gone out. Some, their brothers and sisters had gone out, and other parents just say, I don't want my child to go to Wareham. And sometimes when they make those kind of statements, I just think that some student, I'm not sure that there's really a reason that can be talked about in unless we're ready to have a very honest and open communication, and to really look at what's going on in society.
Apart from the money debate, there is also the issue of accessibility, or the lack of it, and the abuse that comes with access. Although most choice parents, students, and receiving districts cite academic and programmatic features as the main reason for choosing a district, a state has no way of proving the case. That is, opponents of choice will argue that a family may exercise the inter-district school choice program just because they do not approve diversity or wealth within their district. Therefore, advantaged students will leave poor and weaker school districts in search for stronger programs in more affluent communities, leaving behind increasingly disadvantaged school system. Have you seen a case where parents abusing school choice?
Of course, we don't, talk directly to the parents who are participating in school choice. I would be naive to say that it never happens. But again, most of the time when we talk to parents, it's they all have the same interest in their children's education. We have a very robust METCO program in Boston. So you talk about Mattapan parents. They have children of color who they will put on a bus for an hour and a half to send them to a school that is disproportionately white because they think their children are going to get a better education there.
Is that true?
Is what true?
Would that be true, that disproportionately white, they will get a better education?
That's certainly what the parents believe, and there's some statistical evidence that that those students will do better in those environments. Now, again, we can talk about the resources, although Boston itself is a very high-spending district. It's complicated.
The lack of accessibility also plays in when you consider that under school choice, parents are responsible of their child's transportation.
One of the unfortunate things that happened with the school choice program is we used to provide funding to help lower-income families who participate in the program to pay for the transportation to their other school, to their new school. That was defunded a number of years ago, and as a result, it's a little bit harder for particularly lower-income families to participate because they have to provide the transportation themselves.
Now, to me, that creates an obstacle for these parents who want the best for their children, and there is a way to get it, but they can't get it. So how do we revise or relook school choice law?
Well, there's always the option, of course, to fund that again, but again, I think that's again another reason why the charter school option for many of those parents has proven to be more popular, because charter school enrollment does come with transportation for most students.
And also there is reality versus perception, as how a district might benefit from the perceived notion that they are a better district based on those choosing in. The opposite is detrimental. For years now, Wareham School District's reputation has been at war with its reality, and school choice is not making matters better. Somebody may hawk a district due to perceived perception. We are dealing with that, perception versus reality of Wareham Public Schools. What is our reality and what is the perception?
Well, our reality is our students, we certainly see our achievement scores growing. We see opportunities in Wareham. Many other school districts do not have the same opportunities as what our students do. And our students are able to get into Ivy League schools. Our students have access to higher level courses. Our students can travel to Bridgewater and graduate with enough credits that they can pretty much eliminate a year of college there's many opportunities here. The perception, unfortunately, is that sometimes there's chaos in the classrooms, or chaos in the halls, or the kids get a second-rate education. That is absolutely not true. Do we have students with some disabilities that might cause an outburst? Absolutely. But does it impact other students? We work very hard to make sure that all students' needs are met. I'm sure people would differ with that, but I would also invite them to come in, and we'd be happy to give them a tour, happy for them to observe what's going on in our schools.
Do you feel that the Wareham community, the parents, understand the gravity of what you guys are facing?
I would say that some parents do. I wish more people would examine how wonderful things are here, because I think of course, we struggle in areas like every other school system does, but there are so many amazing things going on here every day that I think people need to see, because we really do have some incredible, for the size of our school system and the limited resources, we have some incredible things go on here every day. And we have some incredible staff that work with our kids every day and that we are so fortunate to have. And it's one of the reasons why I want to stay here and want to be here, is because I'm amazed every day when I see the things that we do with the limited resources that we have.
Wareham is working on its image. One of its big revamps is building a new elementary school for pre-K to 4th grade, in addition to evaluating its curriculum.
When I first got here, I put a data system in place. So we started to collect formative data on kindergarten and grade 1 and 2 and all the way up to grade 5. And we started to look at where they were, where their skills were, and what was going on. And once we could identify that, then we say, okay, there's a problem.
What was the results? What did the results show?
Like, for example, between 50 and 60% of our kids in kindergarten are below the norm in reading. That's huge. That's a lot of children. And they want to intervene, like they want to do intervention, but that's intervening with 60% of your kids? You'd need double the staff, triple the staff to do that, right? So that's a problem. And then they come to school and they make some gains, but they never get to the norm because they're not there, right? So then they come back after the summer and it's like they've never been to school. They take the test in 1st grade and they're back down again. You're like, what happened? Why didn't they hold on to that information? Well, it's because it wasn't necessarily, you know what I mean? It wasn't secure. They didn't necessarily really know. So we've been following that cohort since we've been tracking. And that cohort that we started the work in February of 2017, we started doing brain work and integrating that work into the reading program. And we started flexible grouping and 90 minutes of instruction. So 5 teachers share 5 groups. The lower groups get more support. Like, we've been really smart about how we go about formulating this plan.
In addition to revamping the way they teach, the department has also introduced various of rigorous academic programs.
And we've also introduced the middle years program through the International Baccalaureate, which is a lot of performance-based assessment, because I would argue that that's much more relevant than MCAS if those performance-based assessments are rigorous, right?
And that program is not so common. You don't find
it is not.
Okay, so tell us more about why, first of all, why it's not so common and why we decided to have it in our school.
Part of it was because when I got here, they basically made the statement that we need to be more rigorous. We need.
Who made this statement?
It was like through the superintendent, school committee, those kind of. We need major change. I mean, the superintendent was hired because they wanted to shake it up. We needed to shake it up. So, and I came a year after. So she was here a year and then I came. And we don't need to tell teachers what to do necessarily. So if you're looking at a program, like a curriculum program, they're sort of scripted, right? They go lesson by lesson, task by task, and I'm really tired of those companies making a lot of money and boring instruction, to be honest with you. What the International Baccalaureate offers is just a philosophy and pedagogical practices that, and common language that actually promote critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, creativity, and give kids a chance to argue with what's being presented to them in a way that makes them active participants in their learning.
What's the value of this program outside Wareham? When kids graduate high school, how do they distinguish themselves from other kids?
Well, I can give a couple of examples. I mean, one of the students that received an International Baccalaureate diploma was accepted to Harvard. Another was accepted to Tulane and was given $7,000 more scholarship money as a result of her International Baccalaureate diploma. They are extremely well prepared for college. College is easy for them. They struggle through high school. They fight, they're learning and their brain hurts, but they get to college and it's they're so familiar with how it works in college.
It's more rigorous than AP?
It's different. I wouldn't say more or less. There's more onus on the student in IB.
How is the new school fitting in that greater plan of reconstructing not only our image, but giving our students everything we got?
Well, the new school is it's a very exciting enterprise. First of all, it was built around education, not the building built and then we fit in. And it's been done with very responsible allocation of resources. So there's a large group of people on the building committee who are committed to this school and have done a really good job of checks and balances to make sure that our kids are getting everything that they need, but that we're not there's not an indoor swimming pool on the top floor. You know what I'm saying? It's reasonable. We're not asking for things that we can't afford in the new building. But going there'll be enough plugs in the walls so they can plug in their devices, which neither of the schools have enough plugs because they're old, right? They don't have enough electricity and things like that to make what we're doing work. They won't have to be really creative, I guess, with trying to figure out how to do this really cool project because everything that they need will be there. They won't have to be like, well, what room do we have to go to? Where are enough plugs? We could do this or we could do that. Or where do we find that just takes all of that other work and will allow us to just get it done.
And now the $1 million question. Why should you care if your neighbor's child is opting out of your district? When a school is labeled as a good school by the state, neighboring towns, by the standards, quantified standards, what benefit does it have for our town? How would we benefit when our town is at level 1 for MCAS and everybody wants to be here?
When people want to move here, their real estate agent can go up and there's a 3 or 4, several as a matter of fact, real estate national real estate organizations that evaluate all the towns. And when you're looking to move to Massachusetts, you're looking for the individual communities. We're a beautiful seaside community. What's our school system like? So they make the options based on that, and these school systems are rated in those organizations. And unfortunately, we don't rate that high because of our difficulties. I mean, it's not the fact it's managed poorly. I'm not in any way suggesting that. It's just that we are not able to do better than we're trying to do.
Which affects our property values?
Oh, indeed it would. Indeed,
it would or
yes,
it is?
Yes, it would. More people come in, you have expanded, more residences, perhaps more industry. So that expands our tax base. It also increases the value of our existing facilities. So that means we raise the tax rate.
which means the solution towards Wareham getting to where we desire to be is fixing the schools.
Fixing a lot of things.
Speaking of that
Well, you're
priority
singling-
list of yours,
I'm not doing, I refuse to make prioritization.
if a district loses a student, whose fault is it?
Again, I wouldn't characterize it as anybody's fault. It's a choice that parents make. We get to choose what restaurants we want to eat at when we go out for dinner, and it's not that it's one restaurant's fault if I choose another one. That's what I've chosen. As important a decision as a child's education, parents want those choices.
What's your opinion regarding, then going back to the school choice part, are we concerned with the number of students we're losing?
I don't know. I think, though, that it seems that there is a shift. I don't want to jinx it, but it seems that, we have students coming for the IB program. For example, we have where are they from? Marion. We have a student from Marion who's coming here by choice. We have another student who was homeschooled, not living in town, who's here and loves it, is just having a blast. So we have kids that are either choosing in or staying and not going other places at the high school. So for example, we had 20 plus less students go to the vocational technical school. That's great for us, right? I don't know if I don't worry about it.
You don't.
No, I don't. I have a job to do.
You're going to do it regardless.
And I give it 1,000% of everything I have every day, as much as possible, right? And I always think that that's what I can bring, right? I'm responsible for my own stuff, right? And so I can't control what other people do. They're going to make decisions based on a number of different variables.
And so we cannot argue against parents saying my child will be best fit in Wesley versus Wareham. We cannot say don't do it.
No.
But how would you convince a parent to say your child will get the best results or will have a best education, or for our well-being of the entire community, it's best if you let your child go to school here in Wareham?
Well, I can offer examples of our data. When you look at the improvements that have been made in the district, our teachers work very, very hard. We're bringing in programs that support the needs of our students. We're working to address what needs to be addressed. I would wonder how many kindergarten students leave kindergarten in some districts reading. Our students do. For the majority of our students are reading by the time and writing. And the different opportunities that students have in Wareham are amazing. And the teachers, the hard work, the care, I would ask them to please not listen to social media, to go directly to the schools, talk to the principal, talk to the teachers, come and visit me. Happy to show you what's going on in our classes, happy to sit and show you the opportunities that our students have. But please, let's stop bashing the schools until we know the facts.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning for another Good Morning Wareham show. We'll be back here on Monday with plenty of more programming for you, so stay tuned. If you missed us, this program will air this evening at 6 p.m. and will also go on our YouTube channel at Wareham Community Television. Thank you, Wareham, and have a pleasant day. Bye.